Hello and good morning from Tel Aviv. I'm with one of my good friend, my dearest friend, Neta Pulvermacher. And I was so delighted and, excited that you are willing to share with me this, I would say, creative space, if I may say. And just to give the context, when we're talking about building the future the Israeli way, I think people should understand that the creativity and innovation and innovative attitude of the Israelis go far beyond only technology. And I think wonderful things are happening right now in the art scene here in Israel. And so I was so excited that Neta, which we know, I think, for a few years, 6 years already, about 6 years, was willing to come and share with us what is really happening here. So just, first of all, Neta, thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Yahli, for inviting me.
My pleasure. So just to give you a very, very brief, and, I would say, it doesn't really give her justice, but I think it's more important to hear about her, it's more important to hear her speaking than about her. So I'm going to be very brief, okay? But it's only... I would say a sign of my deepest admiration for you. So Professor Neta Pulvermacher, a renewed choreographer, dancer, former artist, director of the Neta Dance Company in New York City, and currently artistic director of the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance Ensemble. And she's an innovative dance and music, which is an innovating dance and music company that creates sites and city-specific events in Jerusalem and beyond. So Neta, let's start from the beginning. If I'm not mistaken, you're a kibbutznik, right? Meaning she was born in a kibbutz and raised in a kibbutz. And 40 years later, you are a leading figure in New York scene of art, music, and dance. Can you tell us about this beautiful journey, very unusual one that from, I would say, from the kibbutz to the center of the art world in the world? So,
hi everyone, and hi Yahli. So we'll start from the beginning.
Yes, please do.
So I was born and raised in Kibbutz Lavot Bashan, in the communal child-rearing methods that was prevalent in Israel and in the kibbutz movement, and from the 1920s until the late 1980s. It really doesn't exist anymore, but what it means is that as part of the ideology of the kibbutz movement, in order to enable women to be equal, completely equal to men, they have decided to create a communal child rearing method, which meant that from birth until you go to the army, you're not raised by your family per se. It's not like you don't have a family, but you have a family and you know who is your father and your mother, but your daily life really is around the children's house, which is your peer group, roughly 2 years from youngest to oldest. And it's about, in my case, it was 16 or 17 children.
Wow, okay.
Initially, it's a baby house, and then you go to the toddlers, to the infant's house, and then you go to the pre-K, and then you go to the kindergarten, and then you go to what is called the Children's Society, and then you get a name. You choose a name. It's the whole.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that you choose your own name.
You choose a name for the group.
Ah, okay.
Because ours was wheat, shibolet in Hebrew.
Wow.
Yes,
okay, beautiful.
Wheaties. And it is a situation where your peers become like your brothers and sisters. And your entire world, this is important because I feel like that is the foundation for good and for bad of who I am and how I operate in the world. there is a saying that says, you can leave the kibbutz, but the kibbutz never leaves you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So essentially, every aspect of life is experienced primarily with your peers and with your caretakers and your teacher, which is a lot more than a teacher. And that means that there's a whole world and a whole sense of freedom. Now in perspective, I think it's both freedom and a little neglect, but they didn't think that it was neglect. And it is incredibly, it's the most equal and egalitarian kind of society that you could imagine. That means that we all had the same beds and the same food and the same teachers and the same clothes. We had a set of clothes for the morning when we did our chores and work and studied, and we had a set of clothes when we go to our daily visit to our parents' room. That's how it was called, our parents' room. And it was in the afternoon at 4:30. We could go to visit our parents, and it was until about 6:45 when we went back to the children's house to eat, to have dinner, and then story time, and then bed. So that is where we did our plays, and we did this, begins to connect to how I ended up being a choreographer. So we all studied recorders, and I was apparently very good at music. So the music teacher decided that two of us, Nira, who unfortunately, my best friend, she passed away from cancer.
Sorry.
Nira was elected to play the piano, even though I wanted to play the piano. And I was elected to play the violin, which I hung on for 2 years, but that was all.
Did you go back to the piano then?
No, I kind of then later on started to play, on my own.
Okay. What are you playing?
Piano and flute, and of course a mean recorder.
Okay.
And I can utter like noise with a violin. And I use it in one of my works.
Okay, that's wonderful. So you entered the art world from the music, in a sense.
Yeah, and I used to make shows, and I think I told you.
Please tell our audience. It's a beautiful story, please.
So when we were kids, I'm not sure exactly what age, my neighbor Shimat and myself, Shimat was in my group, we used to put on shows, and one of I'll tell you a story. My mom one time asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah, please tell the story. Please tell the audience.
I thought a moment, and then I said, Mom, I want to be a flower. That's what I want to be. And Mom, who was a yeke, that means like a German-born, like really a chain smoker, like Nadiv. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
No filters. She looked at me and smoked her cigarette, and she said, well, Neta, looking at me like this, not sure being a flower is for you. It might be really, really boring and dull to be stuck in one place your whole life and wait for the rain to feed you and the sun to shine. And the worst of all, for the bees to pollinate you. I'm not sure it's for you.
Well, she was right in a sense. Anyway, so then
I was like, but Mom, I really, really want to be a flower. I can just see myself donning all these fancy petals as dresses and sending out a magical scent throughout the world, and what a pretty flower I'd be.
I'm sure about it. No question.
And what a great smell I'd have. It would be like Chanel Chamesh,
Oh, they're good
like
for
what
you
you love.
Prestigious flower.
Your favorite perfume mom. So mom was a little kind of like looked at me funny, and she said, well, Neta, darling, why don't you put on a show about flowers, and that way it will get out of your system. So I did. And I invited my mom and my dad and the neighbor, who was Gidon Levin, the father of Amiram Levin, that maybe some of you know. And I ran and I hid behind the sofa. And a whole day passed. And a whole night passed. And another day and another night. And actually all of winter passed by. And finally my head crept up.
Your flower head, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Through the edge of the couch. And then I looked up and I saw that my mom was asleep. Dad was reading the paper, and Gidon Levin, the neighbor, left halfway through winter, and there was nobody there to see my blooming, my grand opening. And so that's when I decided to devote my life to flowers and to growing flowers in the most kind of poetic sense. Because flowers, for me, are also people and students and dancers and flowers.
And flowers.
And I like to empower and cherish people to help them find out who they are.
I think that's beautiful. And I think you're doing it for such a long time.
Yes.
But can you please tell our audience how you come from, being in the kibbutz in the north and suddenly you're in New York? I mean, in
how it happened.
Yeah,
so
please.
during the army, I received, it wasn't so established at that point, but they're like Ragdan Mitzdayan, it's like excellent dancer. It's like in sports, if you were extraordinary, the army makes accommodation so you could practice. So they did that with dancers. And so that's when I met Talina Schoenfeld, whom we both worked with in our
She was only my teacher. You worked with her. For me, she was my mentor. Yeah, I was dancing for a while. Yeah, for most of my life, but that's it. Yeah.
And that was a meeting that changed my life. But before that, I had an incredible teacher in Kibbutz Misgavam, Ariela Peled. And that is why I think meeting her in Tel Chai, in my youth, really changed my life. Wow. Because every single class with her, I could feel the fresh paint. Like she had a kind, she was incredible. She would bring a root, for example, to class and would tell us to look at the root. And then she would say, okay, you have one cigarette to make a root dance.
One cigarette? What do you mean?
One length of cigarette. They used to smoke.
The teacher was smoking.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to smoke and you're going to create. Okay.
Yeah, one length of smoking, one cigarette to make a dance about roots.
Which in the army we have 7 minutes, right? So it's in Israel. It's like kind of a part of the mentality, meaning you have 7 minutes. Meaning on one hand you have, it's not 1 minute, but still you have, it's very strict, and you should be extremely creative. So you succeeded in 7 minutes to create something?
Yes. Wow. And every single class we used to have to complete like a short study or really a complete dance or an idea. And she introduced us to music, but to like, I remember making dances to Dave Brubeck Take 5, and she taught us how to listen to it and how to analyze and how to create chords in choreography. It was just extraordinary.
Are you still in contact with her?
Yes. And she had the most incredible hair in those times. She had short cropped hair, a little different, not curly like mine. But and when she jumped, I remember as a 12-year-old or 13-year-old when I first met her, I used to wait to see how her hair falls a little bit after her, and she has bright eyes and a really contagious laugh.
It sounds that you had a mentor which was a beautiful flower by herself.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what
and she's now almost 90.
Wow.
No, 85 maybe. And she still teaches.
Wow.
In the old age home in the Upper Galilee.
Wow.
She teaches, and she complains, but she loves it.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful. Wow, and it's beautiful that you're still involved in her life and she's in your life.
She was the teacher of also Yair Vardi, who directed for many, many years and founded Suzanne Dalal Center.
Yes.
So, incredible.
You met her, and how do we get still?
Okay, so then I got the bug, and I asked in the kibbutz, like I asked to appear before the committee for blah blah, to request to go to study in Haifa for 1 day a week. So we lived in Lavot Bashan, which is far. It's like 3.5 hours in those days by public transportation. So they permitted me to go once a week. I would leave a little early at 12, would arrive for a 4 o'clock class, would stay until for 2 classes in a row or 3, I don't remember, go to sleep at a relative, and then get up at 4 to make it back to school.
Wow.
So I did that, and then I met Yehudit Arnon, and she gave me a scholarship to come also once a week. And that's how I sort of like started to really get into dance.
So, but this is very unusual for a small child. I mean, why did you do it? I mean, you could have had, much easier life. I mean, how old were you at this age?
I think 15.
Wow, but still, it's adolescence and about first love and puberty and all of this.
I was very I think the dance in the context of the kibbutz, I try to understand to like explain it to myself sometimes. It provided a kind of a world in which words didn't regulate. There was other, and like where the socialism and where the kind of regimented living didn't touch. It was, and it was a way to explore gentleness, beauty, fear, humanness, softness.
Wow.
In a safe space. What felt like very safe space where other rules sort of operate. They operated by different rules. And when I tried to understand, and then you have to understand that at age 15 to be allowed to take the bus by yourself.
Yeah, I think it's unusual.
Always with a bag. My friends always say that I'm always with a bag, even now.
Yeah, I know. You're always with a bag.
And to go and to have this time, I remember like the hours in the bus, and sometimes it rains, and I'm just enjoying being on the way, like not being in this liminal space between where
banana time, we call it.
Yes, and thinking and dreaming, and then going and doing my dance, taking my classes and meeting these people, and I just thought that it was an incredible, beautiful world. And I loved using everything that I have as a human being in this art form.
That's beautiful.
So then,
yeah,
I met Rina Schoenfeld while we were in the army. At that time, she started her company. It was the first company was Dalit Haramati.
Yeah, of course.
He's now the head of the Ironi Aleph dance program, which is a very good program.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she's also an excellent teacher and an excellent dancer. Very unusual character, yeah.
And Tala Levi and Diti Tor.
Yeah, of
and
course.
myself, and we were the four, the gang of four that she started working with. And it was incredible. She was a phenomenal teacher, and we did a show. This is a true story. We worked on it for a long, long, long time. It was called Einstein on the Beach.
It was an amazing one. Of course, I saw it twice or three.
And it was in the Tel Aviv Museum, and I had a role in it to spin the chishuk, a ring.
I remember. Yeah.
A ring, and the music was Philip Glass, Einstein on the Beach. And that particular, segment, there was the segment of the music that says New York, Paris, New York, Paris. And I remember like doing this thing in the performance and deeply understanding that that's it, I gotta go. I gotta go to New York. And then next day I called Lina and I said, Lina, I had this epiphany that I need to go to Juilliard, because Lina used to tell us that she went to Juilliard.
Of course. She studied with Pina Bausch, and then they became very close friends. Yeah, unfortunately, Pina, which is a brilliant choreographer, creator and humanistic, she's not with us anymore, unfortunately. So then you went to Juilliard.
So then I had a friend from Kfar Blum who studied with my favorite teacher, who was an American. And she was the first one to audition for Juilliard, and she got in.
Wow!
And she was like, Neta, you gotta come. And she sent me the application, and I did. My English wasn't that great; it was okay, but it wasn't fabulous. So with my handwriting, which was awful, I filled it out, and my dad helped me. And I remember, like, I couldn't sleep, like for months. From the fear of like going to audition and then maybe staying. And I went, didn't know anybody, auditioned, and and the head of the founder of the dance department, which was still the director of the dance department of Juilliard, Martha Hill, took me to the nurse's office and put me, it's a true story, she put me on the scale. And she said, we love you, but you have to get thinner. And I remember I swore to my soul that I will never, ever do that to anyone in my entire life.
Wow. Yeah.
Today, I sort of understand her. I still wouldn't do it. I would maybe do it in another way. Yeah. But
then they took you in any case.
They took me in any case because I think they loved my work.
Well, you're brilliant. If they're open-minded, they had to see your brilliancy and your genius abilities.
I don't think I would get in now, because the people who are directing now are not as open-minded.
Really? Oh my God! So it's good for them that they were there at that time. Otherwise, they would have lost you. You wouldn't. You would. No, I'm saying my take on thing is that this was a burning. This is a burning platform for you, the dancing, and you have to express yourself. You would have done it in any case, so it wouldn't be.
There was a couple of us that were really oddballs, but actually, we are the one who lasted the longest. Like my friend Bopi, Craig Patterson. It was like such a beautiful soul, African American, incredibly talented. We were both in remedial ballet, if you know what it means. So when we came, we didn't know ballet. We had a burning desire. So they put 4 of us to get like extra push. But we did.
I'm thinking. Now you have to lose weight, you're putting in an extra, the less advantages.
But they were so supportive, and our peers loved us. Okay. And then clearly at the end, I'm incredibly thankful for that school.
Yeah, of course.
And it really, like, meeting my ballet teacher, Alfredo Corvino, was also Rena's teacher. Yeah. Really was incredible.
Wonderful. Okay. We have to jump in because, unfortunately, hopefully we'll have another time, because I would like to hear about these 30 years that you were so successful in the States. But then I must tell you, when I was preparing for this wonderful meeting with my dearest Neta, is that I saw I saw an interview that she gave at, what is it? I think 18, right? No,
Yeah.
16.
16.
16. And she was talking about her work in Philadelphia where she was managing I think the dance.
In Florida.
In Florida,
Yeah.
sorry, my apologies. So, and she was talking about her life in the States, and I knew already that she is going to come to Israel at this point. It was on the table. So how come, if I may say, after huge success in the States, after building yourself a whole life, I mean, it was 30 years.
Right, of a company, like successful company, accolades, prizes, grants, awards, and really making it as a choreographer, which is not that easy.
No, it's very, very hard,
Yeah.
and more than that. But also, you got to, you were up on the hill, and suddenly, instead of staying on this beautiful arena, being pampered with, I mean, you earned everything. I mean, it's not what I'm saying is that, but it was much easier to stay in the States than coming to this, unstable
Wow.
place. Very complicated. Israel is a very complicated, and you take your bag again.
Right.
And you come back to
Approved.
Israel. Yeah, how come? Why would anyone in his right mind would do such an action? Can you tell us about that? How you make a decision suddenly? I'm serious to live.
You have no idea how many people ask me, and they usually ask it because it's funny. They say, "What? You came back after 31 years? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you?"
Exactly. So what's wrong? Let's talk about what's wrong. I'm joking, of course.
So it's interesting. I like the year before this opportunity came, and they recruited me to become a dean of dance at the Jerusalem Academy of Music. Paul Bloom came to Florida, and he really loved to University of Florida. He was a professor there, and he really loved what I did there. I didn't really know him. It was not even on my radar. I did have a festival there, in which I founded. It was called the Swamp Dance Fest, in which I brought Israelis. I brought Yaniv Avraham from Batsheva to teach, and then during the year I brought Dana Rottenberg, who is a choreographer, and I brought Ella Ben Aaron and Einav Levy, who is the director of Gaton. And in 2010 I brought my Florida students for 3 weeks, 12 of them, to Israel.
Wow.
So I kept a connection,
Of course.
but it was not on my radar at all. My entire life, my son is there still, is there in New York. And but I got tenure at the university. And during the 7 years between 2006 and 2013, I commuted. You have to understand, that means flying on Monday morning from New York to Florida, and then teaching a whole day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday until afternoon, driving the car an hour and a half to Jacksonville Airport, taking a flight to New York, and then working with my company.
Wow.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wow.
I did that for a long while, and being with my son. So, but I didn't want to move to Florida. This is something really interesting. Sometimes I would wake up, and even though the school is amazing, really, hands down, an amazing school, amazing university, it's the best university in Florida. It's really, really amazing facility. But I looked around and I kept asking myself, what on earth are you doing here? Like, is that where you want to end? Like, is that where you want to end your life? Like, okay, so now you got tenure. Then what?
I see.
And then this Like, what do I want to do? Like, where am I making a difference? Like, I was thinking, yes, I was making a difference. For example, when I got to University of Florida to the dance department, there was hardly any African American dance majors. And I took it upon myself to change that. And I did.
Wow, beautiful.
Recruited.
That's beautiful.
And changed it. I did a lot of things, but still, it felt like, who cares that we're making all these incredible shows in Gainesville, Florida? Whoever is going to see
do you feel a difference here in Israel? When in sense of making it, a change and contributing and having an impact?
Yes and no. I'll go into it.
No,
but
I was wondering something.
So I got this invitation to become the dean, and there was a whole process, and I decided to give it a try initially for 1 year.
I remember. Then we met.
Yes, and then we met. I have to say I was in a culture shock.
Of course. How no? Of course.
Understandably. And I did that job for 2 years, and I made a lot of changes during the 2 years.
You did a beautiful thing over there, a beautiful thing.
And created a theater, got a donation to renovate the theater, did a lot of things. And then it was enough for me because I wanted to do something else, because it felt like I could contribute in other ways. And so then the reason why I came back has to do with timing. I want to speak a little bit about that.
Yes.
And the time in a person's life. I made a dance about it. I made a dance which is called It's About Time. It's not just a dance.
Okay. Is it going to be in the show note that we are going to add? Did you send it to me? Time? Can you send it?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
It's an interesting solo which really looks at time, not just as something with a clock, but about the time it takes to make a decision, the time it takes to find parking, the time it takes to wait for the water to boil in the morning, or
that's beautiful.
or in the time it takes to die, and the time it takes to be born. And the time it takes to shit. And the time it takes...
I'm not sure whether I have to say it on the radio. Okay, hopefully no one heard, yeah.
And the time it takes to do other things. And so the duration of when... And the time it takes to cry. I remember there's a part where I cut an onion.
That's beautiful. So this is like... Okay, so this goes for the crying, the onion.
And then I open, it starts with this list of the time it takes to blah, blah, and the time it takes to blah, blah. And I just crawl and open up a piece of paper, like a roll of paper with my crawl, not seeing where I'm crawling. During this whole time of this list, it takes about 2 minutes. And the only thing I do is crawl.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
I think it is.
And then there's
I'm
a part...
going to watch it.
And then there is a part there, but it deals exactly with that, with I think the sentence is, and I premiered it in Australia.
From all places?
Yes, in Tasmania.
Even more interesting.
In a festival there. And there I deal with it. Like I say, it was like I left with a suitcase and a dream. And that was it. One-way ticket to New York.
And back as well.
And then, why did you come back? There's a
no,
whole
I'm saying
section.
Also the back is taking
and
also
then,
again.
And then, yes. And there's a section there where I danced to a beautiful tune where I got 2 of my students just throw at me. Why did you come back? But why did you come back? Are you crazy?
Wow. Interesting. So you used it in your...
Yes.
Wow.
And then I say it was time.
It was time.
It was time. It felt
the inner clock.
There is such a thing. There is a time for everything. I mean, there is even in the it's in the Bible.
Yeah.
But it was time. My dad was 93. He was in great shape when I got back. And he passed away in 2019 when he was 99. And I got to really be with him for the last 6 years of his life, and that was extremely meaningful for me. So coming back here and what I've done since, it's as much as I could say about the African American that I brought to University of Florida. Here I feel I've done a similar thing with Palestinians at the Jerusalem Academy of Music.
Can you speak about that?
Not that there weren't Palestinians, but I made an effort. Like I really took it upon myself to go to Bet Hanina, to this one school. I gave workshops in Bet Sahur. And I felt
voluntarily.
Yes.
You simply showed up. You said I want to teach.
Yeah, like a workshop.
And how did they react?
I think the fact that I spoke English with an American accent was
not Hebrew with an Israeli accent.
And there was actually an interesting. No, I'm not sure that I want to say it, but I went with a student who wanted me to see her perform. She was
I
first
remember
year.
that the one that you took to the academy.
Yes.
I remember the story, but please tell it. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful story.
It was right after Tzuk Eitan, which was also really difficult for me. It was the first summer that I'm here, and there's this war, and
unfortunately, it was a horrible one. Yeah,
and she was coming into the first year, and she really wanted me to see her perform. Lo and behold, the show was in Ramallah. What am I going to do?
I remember we talked about that, whether you should go or not. Yeah.
And I went with my American passport because I didn't want her to feel like I don't care. And it was fine. And I'm glad that I did, because I feel like she really she works now both in Israel and in Ramallah, and she's just. I understood that we have to make this change if it ever has a chance.
Yes.
From people
definitely.
to people.
Yeah.
That's the job. It's like how we are talking. It's person to person. Or this radio חברתי. We have to tell the stories and make the personal connection. And I commissioned works for the ensemble on purpose. And the whole project, Guf B'chol Makom, which is Body Dance Site, which is a city and site-specific project, which I founded and thought about and initiated and created, was about providing an open space for multiple narratives of the city of Jerusalem to be heard side by side. Not that one is dominant, but just to lay them, to have the voices.
All of human voices.
All of human voices speak.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel that I do make a difference. And I also feel, in a way, that I make a difference in my approach to choreography.
Okay.
In that,
can you elaborate on that? Which I think it's very, very unusual, and
because I think there is such.
You have a creative view on creative process in dancing.
Right.
Yeah.
First, I think that everyone can choreograph.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it's a process. It's what I call choreographic thinking. It's the ability. You have to help people see and kind of recognize that all the elements are there. What makes the imagination incredibly powerful tool is our innate ability. Even though you could practice it, just like you practice other things, to connect what I call seemingly disparate elements. That's where our strength.
Can you repeat this and explain it? I think it's a wonderful concept, but I think it needs some explanation.
I think you always say that I'm humble. It's not that. It's not that I'm humble. It's just that I see that all the elements. I'm not making new things. I'm connecting things in a new way. That's the concept. Because the DNA, then the RNA, even everything that is here or here or here is made out of the same component in different orders. Yeah. And so this, like the difference between this and the bottle and my body, there's a lot of differences, but it's the way that the components are arranged.
What you're saying, besides the difference, there is a lot of connection and similarities. And
that's right. And the connectivity, which brings us to technology later, is the name of the game. And the human mind is able to see a connection where none exists. So I'm always saying to my students, the mind is able to make the connection. That means there is a connection. You know?
Wow. If you can envision it,
right,
you can create it,
right,
or it already exists, but it's not easily.
But it's like you put the spotlight on a connection just by suggesting it, you know.
Yeah.
And we know already that everything is connected to something other than itself, and that nothing grows in a vacuum. So there you have it. So what I'm trying to tell students of choreographies or people, because I used to go to Alaska, for example, for 10 years. 2 weeks a year, the state of Alaska flew me into some village or another. And in those residencies, I used to teach the entire village.
That's beautiful. I didn't know that about you.
Yes.
The whole village?
Yeah, like the mamas and the kids and
the grandchildren and the grandparents. Wow, this is a beautiful experience for you as well.
Yes.
That a whole village is dancing.
And I used to put on a show at the end with everyone.
Of course, without the show.
Yeah. And the whole point was to kind of let people taste the ability to make these connections and create something, to choose your elements, and then the primary effort is the chibur, the composition, the making the thing. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that as if there is so many layers, and by the choreography, or you create the connection between different things, which are suddenly it's invisible, but also between different layers. If
right, and that way you can connect mediums, like you can get, and I do that a lot in my work, like speaking, singing, music, dancing.
Yeah.
And making the movements or inventing the movements, which is also I have a I don't know if you invent movements. I mean, there's like, you know,
they might be already there. You have to, I would say, simply discover them.
Right. Discover is a much better, much better word for me.
Yeah. I think Pina Bausch as well was speaking about that many times. You know, that it was as if the movement was there, and she had to find it. If I recall from one of her interviews,
you choose from infinite possibilities of movement, one path, because movement is always like going from point of departure to a destination, right? And that's by definition.
There's so many ways. Yeah. Also in science, there's so many ways. I want to ask you about the corona. So you're here for a while, and suddenly the COVID-19 hits. I mean, not only us, not only you and me, and unfortunately the whole world. It might be, you know, if only 2 people got it. But so you're here, you're in the middle of, huge creations, working, delegating, you're in the middle of life in a sense, and then suddenly this shut down. So how did it meet you? What do you think about that? And how did it impact? Because I know it's definitely impact the way that you're...
Definitely. The first, it started, I remember I was supposed to go to China. It was January 2020. And something in me was like, Neta, you're not going.
When was it? January? And you thought I'm not going?
Not because of COVID. I was like, something in me is like telling me, no, I don't want to go.
For how long were you supposed to go?
With the students. They went.
For how long?
For like a week. And I was like, no.
This would have been your first
time in China.
Okay.
And I gave my place to another person. And when they came back, there was already the news that something's going on. Nobody spoke about a pandemic yet.
No one knew. I mean, not really. I mean, yeah.
But anyway, this met me, the first, wave, when I was on half sabbatical. And I planned to do a lot of things. I planned to go to Morocco for a biannual of like African dances and choreographers for contemporary dance. And I had the ticket and the hotel and the invitation, and I meant to go to Berlin to research my family history. And I had a ticket to go to New York to visit my son and visit friends and and do all these things. And boom, none. It was stop. Came March, and that's it. Closed the airport, can't travel, can't do anything. So I took a writing class.
When did you take it? I mean, immediately in March already?
Yes.
You already understood that you have to...
Yeah, I was like, I need to do something that is really different than what I'm doing. And I took a writing course, creative writing course, which I really loved. And was going back to writing, but that was only part of it. And then I practiced at home. I did Gaga half an hour every day and yoga. And at first I was really enjoying the first quarantine period, the first...
Like, what was the month? 5 weeks? How was it?
Yeah, I don't even remember. Remember how happy we were?
Yeah,
like you were starting to give these talks.
I was off the roof because I just it was time to give. That's what I felt. But you the same in a sense. From the first, I'm from 13th of March. I started.
And I started to give these special classes, online composition classes for Machol Shalem, for Gaton, for this, for that, and the other. And it was interesting to think about what can I do in this, using this medium of Zoom, which nobody knew. So that was the first thing. And then we got out of this, and here I am in October 2020. That's almost a year ago. And I'm back to JMD, and I'm back to directing the ensemble, and the Jerusalem mayor's office, the dance program, really wants to collaborate with me on another project, body dance site, but they want me to commit to have a show and a particular date and to have product. And I was like, the money was nice, what they offered, but I was like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I felt like this year, it was wrong to start it by saying, I'm committing to make a public show. We had to start from a different place.
This is very brave. I mean, in a sense that, you have something is handed on you over a plate and you're saying, unfortunately, no, I can't do that. And
yeah, because I felt like I couldn't commit to artists that I would ask to create in this special circumstances where we don't know what will be the product. I could only say the most interesting thing we could do is to use this period, and this is what led to public parking, to the project. We could use this period as a way to explore different formats.
Wow. Yes, okay. So, no, we have only 7 minutes. Okay.
And so...
can I say, Neta, because it's so interesting. So I was wondering whether about, this specific, the process that you will be able to set another time, because I think for any kind of creator, it would be extremely interesting and valid to learn from the process you had only on
Of course.
Okay, so we'll have another one only on this because I think it's beautiful and you might want to bring other people. So, okay, so about park, but continue about, so what happened then?
So then I said, no, I cannot commit. And especially you cannot, it was a difficult thing because they said that they wouldn't pay the artists unless there was a performance. And I said, you cannot do that. I'm not going to commission and have artists or the dancers do anything if these choreographers are not being paid.
Okay.
And I felt like I had to free, and I read Hagar Kotef, what she writes about the public spaces, public parks, public, train stations, bus stations, this place of true democracy. And I felt like this period where everything was regulated, we couldn't go out of our house, we couldn't convene, we couldn't gather, only the Balfour demonstrations, which I used to go. Of course. There was something interesting about it, and it felt like the entire world was parked.
Okay.
And that's when this parked the entire world.
We have to stop here. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I'll have. We're in the middle of it. That's what it means, that we are both in the middle. So what we'll do, we will schedule another hour, an hour and a half, so we can really speak about, this wonderful process, because I think it's also, I think the whole world had to be very creative and very adaptive in this time. But I think what Neta did, and I think the artists here in Israel did, was marvelous. And we are going to have another meeting besides with Neta, and if you want to, invite someone else to be with you, but also with Nomi Fortis, which also would, a very close friend for both of us, which is also doing beautiful things in the art scene here in Israel, and especially in the Corona and with this unusual year, which also was, a move in the government, a huge change in the political life in Israel. So at this point, I'm sorry, we have to stop, but we are going to share in the notes, which are going to be all over, also in Spotify and iTunes and of course the YouTube and Facebook and everywhere. We are going to share a list of I think articles, but also links to works of Neta, so you can enjoy, I think, the fruits of unusual creativity and ability to transform and to translate feelings, situations, interaction into the language of dance. So, Neta, thank you so much. It was such a great pleasure. Thank you so much, my dear. And until next time.
Thank you, Yahli.
Thank you. So it's been a pleasure. See you here soon. Thank you.
הכוח חוזר לאנשים.